Hey everyone, welcome back. We're doing a deep dive today
Ooh, exciting.
into Kamala Harris's closing argument speech.
All right.
But we're going to go a little deeper than just like what she's saying on the surface, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
We're going to look at why she's saying these things,
Yeah.
where she's saying these things, and to whom.
Right.
So this is not your typical news recap. This is really about understanding the strategy behind the messages.
I think it's so fascinating how one speech
Yeah.
can really be like a microcosm for the entire campaign.
Yeah.
You see all the major themes, all the tensions, all the different leadership styles at play.
And speaking of strategy, can we talk about the location?
Oh, yes.
I mean, she chose the Ellipse,
Right.
which is the same place where Trump gave his fight like hell speech on January 6th.
Very deliberate, I think.
Yeah, what do you make of that decision?
I think she's confronting the legacy of January 6th head on.
Yeah.
She's drawing a direct line between that day and the choices voters face now.
Right.
It's about framing this election as a battle between democracy and what she calls the threat of a petty tyrant.
Okay, that phrase petty tyrant, she uses it over and over.
Yeah.
To describe Trump, it's like she's trying to get a reaction out of people.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that the strategy?
I think it is. It's tapping into those deep anxieties people have
Yeah.
about authoritarianism,
Oh, yeah.
about democratic backsliding.
Right.
And when she uses that label, she's playing on those fears.
Okay.
She's creating a very stark contrast.
Yeah.
A vote for me is a vote to protect democracy itself.
So it's not even just about policy at this point. It's about saying, like, these are two very different types of leaders.
Exactly. Two very different visions.
And then she also says that she is going to listen to experts.
Yes.
She's going to listen to communities that are affected by these issues and even people who disagree with her.
Yeah.
Is that just a dig at Trump, or is there something more there?
I think it's both. On the one hand, yeah, it's a dig at Trump and how he kind of surrounds himself with yes men.
Right.
But I think it also speaks to voters who are tired of the partisan gridlock,
Okay.
who feel like their voices aren't being heard.
Right. So it's like a unifying message.
Yeah, trying to bridge the divide.
Interesting. But then she also goes after Trump pretty hard
Yeah.
for claiming that he did more for Puerto Rico than any other president.
Well, that's where the battle for truth comes in.
Right. Okay.
She's pointing out the disconnect between his words and his actions,
Yeah.
especially how his administration responded to Hurricane Maria.
And we can't forget about Hinchcliffe's comments at that rally at MSG.
Oh, right. It all adds up.
Yeah, so it makes Trump look hypocritical.
Yeah, out of touch.
Like he cares more about looking good than actually doing good.
Right. Image over substance.
And then there's this part where Harris admits her own imperfections.
Yeah.
She even says, "I'll be the first to admit I am far from perfect."
Interesting.
Why would she do that?
It's a play for authenticity.
Yeah.
In a world where politicians are seen as so polished and kind of fake,
Yeah.
admitting flaws can be disarming.
Makes her seem more human.
Yeah, relatable.
Okay, so maybe it's less about specific policies and more about creating that sense of, I can trust this person.
I think that's part of it, yeah.
But she does eventually get into policy.
She does.
What stood out to you?
I thought her focus on concrete solutions was really interesting.
Like what?
For example, her proposal for tax cuts for the working and middle class.
Okay.
Very targeted.
Yeah.
And I think it aims to address a very specific concern,
What's that?
economic anxiety.
Okay.
It's a way of showing voters that she understands their struggles and has a plan to help.
So that's different from Trump, who just kind of makes these big promises.
Exactly.
It's like Harris the pragmatist versus Trump the showman.
A good way to put it.
But the question is, how effective will that be?
Yeah, that's what we need to explore as we keep going deeper with this speech.
All right, let's do it.
Let's dive in.
So let's get into those concrete solutions.
Yeah, let's dig in.
Harris spends a lot of time in this speech talking about her policy ideas, especially that tax cut plan for the working and middle class.
Right.
It feels like she's trying to counter Trump's whole economic narrative.
Oh, totally. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Right.
She's connecting with voters on a very personal level, their wallets.
Yeah.
She's tapping into this feeling that so many people have,
What's that?
that the system is rigged against them,
Mm-hmm.
that the American dream is slipping away.
Okay.
And she's contrasting that with Trump's vision,
Right.
saying his policies have only helped the rich,
Yeah.
while hers will benefit everyday Americans.
So classic populism.
Yeah, exactly.
Champion of the working class fighting for the little guy.
Against the elites.
But it's not just talk. Right. She has a plan of tax cuts for people below a certain income level.
It's a very targeted approach.
Very strategic.
I think she's trying to appeal to voters who are feeling squeezed.
Yeah.
Those struggling with the cost of living wages not keeping up. Makes sense.
That feeling of economic insecurity.
So this tax cut is supposed to make things a little easier for them.
Yeah, give them some breathing room.
Okay, but the big question is,
Right.
how's she going to pay for it?
That's what voters want to know.
Yeah, is it realistic or just a campaign promise?
Right. The devil's in the details.
She's got to flesh out those details.
Absolutely.
Convince people that it's fiscally responsible.
Yeah. Not just something she's saying to get elected.
Because at the end of the day, voters care about their own bottom line.
Of course.
How much money will I actually save?
Will it make a difference in my life?
Right. She needs to connect those cuts to real-world impacts.
Exactly. Show people how their lives will be better.
So it's a balancing act.
It is.
Appeal to people's emotions, fairness, wanting a better life,
Right.
but also be rational about it.
Yeah.
Show that you're responsible and have a plan.
That's the challenge.
It's like walking a tightrope,
It is.
trying to connect with people's hearts and minds.
You need both. And it's not just about the economy either, right?
No, she talks about a lot of other issues.
Healthcare, immigration, climate change,
All the hot-button topics.
the things that can really sway an election.
They can.
So how does she approach them?
It's interesting she tries to frame these issues as part of her bigger message.
Okay.
Unity and progress.
Oh, okay.
It's not just about policies, it's a story.
A story about what kind of country she wants?
Yeah, exactly.
Give me an example.
Sure, healthcare.
Okay.
She talks about making sure everyone has access to quality, affordable care,
Right.
regardless of income or pre-existing conditions.
Which is totally different from Trump's approach.
Oh yeah, he's been trying to dismantle the Affordable Care Act.
So it's a contrast.
A stark one.
Two very different visions of healthcare.
Yeah, one that prioritizes access for everyone,
Okay.
and one that benefits insurance companies and the wealthy.
At the expense of everyone else.
Right.
All right, let's talk immigration.
Another tough one.
It's been so divisive under Trump. How does Harris even approach it?
Well, she doesn't focus on fear and division like Trump does.
Okay.
She talks about comprehensive reform,
Meaning?
secure the borders, but also create a pathway to citizenship.
So trying to find a middle ground.
Right. Balance security and compassion.
It's a tough sell in this political climate.
It is.
But maybe it'll appeal to people who are tired of the fighting.
Yeah, we're looking for a more humane
A
solution.
more practical solution.
You know,
So it's like she's trying to move the conversation away from the extremes
I think so.
to a more moderate place.
Yeah, finding common ground.
And that goes back to the location she chose for this speech.
Oh yeah, the ellipse.
It's not just a random backdrop,
It's a symbol.
the site of January 6th.
A powerful one.
Like she's confronting what happened that day,
Mm.
but also offering a vision for something different,
Yeah, more hopeful future.
where we can come together.
Overcoming our divisions.
It's a bold move.
It is. But will it work?
Will voters buy into it? Will they be drawn to her message of unity?
Or will they stick with Trump's appeals to grievance?
That's what we'll be exploring in the final part of our deep dive. This whole election, it feels like this one big choice.
Yeah.
Like, are we going to stay divided or try to move forward together?
Totally. And that tension is like all over Harris's speech.
Right?
You see it in how she compares herself to Trump.
Yeah.
Talking about inclusivity, listening to everyone finding consensus.
It's a very specific way of framing it.
Right, especially given where she is.
The ellipse.
Yeah, the place that's become like the symbol of division.
It's like she's trying to take that place back and give it a new meaning.
And like hope unity.
Powerful imagery.
It is.
And she's not just talking, though, right? She has
Right.
actual plans. We talked about her economic ideas.
Right.
But what about stuff like climate change?
Another big one where she and Trump are total opposites.
Okay, so how does she approach that?
She calls climate change like this major threat
Yeah,
that we need to deal with now.
like an existential threat.
Exactly. And she talks about investing in renewable energy,
Yeah.
creating green jobs,
Mm-hmm.
getting back into global agreements like the Paris Climate Accord.
So very future-focused vision.
Yeah, all about innovation working together globally.
Very different from Trump, who's all about fossil fuels.
Right. Very skeptical of the whole thing.
So again, it's this choice for voters.
Yeah.
Stick with the past or embrace the future. So we have these two stories then.
Mm-hmm. Two different ideas of what America is and what it could be.
But how does that play out when people actually vote?
Right. Will they be convinced by Harris's message of unity and progress?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
It's tough to know how people will react to all this. and all
Yeah.
these different plans and ideas.
But it's clear that this election is about more than just who wins.
So much more. It's about the soul of America.
Yeah, it feels like a turning point.
It really does have time for big decisions.
And that's why this deep dive into Harris's speech was so helpful.
Yeah, it showed us what's at stake.
What the choices really are.
We got to see inside the campaign.
The hopes and fears driving this whole thing.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up, let's leave our listeners with one last thought.
Okay.
We broke down the strategies, analyzed the messages. Now it's your turn.
What do you mean?
Take this information, think about it, talk about it.
Okay.
Because our democracy needs people to be informed and involved.
Couldn't have said it better myself. The power is in your hands.